All right, it's time for the Chapter 6 case study. So the Chapter 6 case study is about big data, which is mass amounts of numbers and statistics that have the potential of being analyzed by different companies, and that analyzation would yield success in different areas, maybe about understanding their market or their customers or even their products. And this case study examines the impact of big data and different companies that have implemented that and what they've seen from it. So the first question is, what business benefits did the companies and services described in this case achieve by analyzing and using big data? So in short, what these companies were seeing was that, first of all, they had access to a massive spectrum of information that they could analyze about their consumers or about the market around them or even their own performance. And this information allowed them to optimize specific areas that their company strives in or different services that they provide. And because of that, they have a better understanding and a better relationship with their market and their customers. So the next question is, identify 2 decisions at the organizations described in this case that were improved by using big data, and 2 decisions that were not improved by using big data. So for the beneficial decisions, the improvement, one that they mentioned was Spotify, that developed services to feel personal to each individual user, and Spotify made the decision to really tap into what each listener is listening to at the current moment, what they tend to listen to afterwards, what they listen to before, how they build their playlists. And by doing this, they have integrated all this information to create an extremely personalized experience that no other music streaming software offers. Another beneficial decision using big data would be the company Skyscanner, which allows consumers to find deals for one product from all over the web and pick the best one. So they use big data to analyze everything in real time for a product being sold and all the promotions. And this helps the consumers get the best bang for their buck. Some of the non-beneficial decisions would have been Google's flu prediction algorithm, which basically fell to waste. They were trying to predict the number of people that would have the flu in a season due to the number of people that had flu-like symptoms last season, and using big data to help them in that way. Only their statistics were completely wrong, and they overshot the prediction by double what it actually was, due to just not fully understanding the big data or not fully actualizing it. Another company that didn't have success with big data was Street Bump, which is basically an app that tells you when a pothole is coming up in the street. But the issue with this was that really the only accounts were being used, or the only success they were having with accounts is when the app was being used in areas where a lot of other people were using the accounts, ergo a lot of smartphones. And so basically the app was only useful in affluent areas with a lot of smart devices, and those areas by their nature are a lot less likely to have potholes. So the company basically didn't provide anything useful from the big data that they used their resources to get. So the next question asks you to list and describe the limitations to using big data. And these limitations are what you would expect. It's a mass amount of information to process, so you need a highly intelligent computer to do that. And also you have issues of consumer privacy and security coming into jeopardy when we are doing all this research into big data. And understand the consumer's lives, and it can also distort certain statistics or problems, like what we saw with Google or with the Pothole app. Even it distorted the reality of what people were expecting to see. The next question asks, should all organizations try to analyze big data? Why or why not? What people, organization, and technology issues should be addressed before a company decides to work with big data? I don't think by any means that all companies should turn to big data. I think in order to analyze and fully actualize big data, you have to have a plan beforehand as to exactly what it's going to be, what purpose it will be serving, why you're going to be using it, and you also need an abundance of services in order to correctly gather and analyze and implement that data. So my first discussion question is, can big data permanently damage our privacy as consumers, and should there be regulations in place as to what/how big data is collected? And yes, I think it's a possibility, and I think it's already happening. There are many cases where we don't know what information about us is being shared or to who with, and I think that this is a huge infringement on human rights. While many companies, admittedly, are only using big data collection to ultimately benefit the consumer experience, such as Spotify, it's also just difficult to stop them if they do have any ulterior motives about getting our information. If a company is scamming, sending this information to people to harm the consumer, it's hard to detect that. Pardon the train in the background. I'm sitting outside right now, if you can hear that. My next discussion question is, could big data be linked to the growing developments in AI technology? And I think that these are very linked. I think they have a very strong connection. AI is essentially the development of machine thought and motive, and it only makes sense that AI would have complete control over statistics and information in order to make decisions, if we're getting to that advanced level of AI. If we were to develop AI to potentially better our society, for instance, then I think it's essential that the AI would have to fully understand everything, every factual and numerical piece of data about our society in order to make the decisions as a completely rational, logical entity. So in conclusion, big data has a lot of potential to change companies in beneficial ways. There are also drawbacks, and it takes a lot of investment into it to get anything out of it, if you get anything out of it. And I think that a company needs to fully analyze how they're operating and what big data would truly accomplish for them before committing to the funding, the time, and the effort into the research and development and interpretation of that big data. So that's the end of my Chapter 6 case study, and this was incredible. I'm never going to forget this.